Hey guys, welcome on this last class for art103. So I hope through this class you went through a lot of things that you didn't necessarily know or you just wanted to reminder. So in this last class we're going to talk about the grading on some examples of previous images that we actually used during the class. So the previous class was about understanding how to look at an image and understanding what was in there in terms of black levels, white, brightness in general, contrast, or colors information. So today what I would like to do is picking a few images and try to grade them to match a reference. So we're going to start with a black and white walk by taking this image, which we already used before, and try to grade it as something which would be like these. To do that, what we're going to do is actually, let me just remove a bit of that so we can find a way. It's going to be easier. Sorry. Boop. All right, so let me just bring my images. Cascade. I'm going to make this one small for now. This one as well. This one is going to be used for Amelie. This one as well. And we're going to start to talk about this image and use this one as a guide. So I'm just going to leave it like this because what we need is just the levels actually. So that's the image that I want to use to grade. There you go. So that's going to be my source image. And if I straight away put a level on it, I can see how the image is working here. So a lot of blacks, not a single high values, and a little bit of mid-range, but not so many, and a lot of high values. This is my image has a very strong contrast. So to go to something a bit more like this is going to be quite interesting. So I'm just going to remove these ones because that was from the previous class. So I'm just going to teach them. Right, so that's the first analyze. If I go back to what we have, so that is the curve that I kind of want to mimic here. So what we can see is that in this curve, we don't have anything before 32. So first of all here, we know that the blacks are going to stop at 32. So it means that the darkest value that we have in this image is 32. If we look at the highest values is at 192. So I'm going to do the same here, and I'm going to say 192 is going to be my maximum. 92. So already I'm matching the high to that. Then I think I still have a little bit of something here. So I'm going to desaturate this image completely. Yeah, I was a bit sepia type of thing. So that's it. And now if I look at the mid values, so I have a bit of dark here is because of the tree, obviously. Then I have a bit of mid values, and then I have a lot of high values is because of the sky. So if I want to kind of have the same sort of feel, obviously, if I look at my, I'm going to put a level on top here. So that's what I have. So I have a lot of high, I have a lot of low, and I have a bit of that. I'm just going to increase a little bit that. And you see now, naturally, I'm starting to be way closer to the feel I have here. So that's the sort of technique that you can use to grade an image and try to get something, looking like a ref. So in that case, obviously, we want to match the black levels, the high values. So I'm matching it. So if I was putting this image now in the middle of this one, that would not be so different. That would work quite well together because of, the sort of compatibility between the black levels and the high values. Black levels are really important because you really have to respect some rules. High values as well, because otherwise it stands out. So if you want to mix different elements together, you really have to be careful about that. For the mid-range, it's a bit more subjective. It's more, how you want to really balance the image globally. If you want it to look a bit darker. I'm sorry, it's not the right one. This one, if you want it to be a bit darker in general or brighter, like high key, in that sort of thing. But like if you really want to match the two different images, the black levels, the high values, that have to be similar. Otherwise, you're going to run into troubles. If now I take this one as a ref, which is quite different, I'm going to put a level on it as well, just to analyze and see, all right, we have a lot of dark, a lot of high, but not a lot of high values, and a bit more here. So I'm going to remove these. Actually, I'm going to keep this set. That's the one I'm going to remove. You see here, if I look at this one, I'm already quite similar, except that I don't have the high. Here, the white are white. Here, my white are not white. So I'm going to clamp it to have the white to mimic this one here. And as you can see here, you have a lot of the what would be high values, which is really white, which is pretty much what we have there. So if you compare here, we have low high values, and boom, white. Here we have, we still have quite a lot of high values here. So I might have to do a bit more work. So let's put another here. You see, I've got a lot here, and then I go to the white. So what I'm going to do is even increasing a little bit, that sort of things, to compact a bit more these high values into what is supposed to be white. And now if I check here, I have diminished these high values here, and I have a lot of white compared to here, you see? So now I'm a bit closer to that sort of shape. Obviously, the lines that I have here is because I'm working in 8 bits on some image which doesn't have a lot of depth, so I'm kind of missing some values, but roughly that's what I have. Now here, I've got a lot of dark values there and blacks, which is similar to what I have here. So I'm quite satisfied with that, because again, now this image matches the sort of contrast that we have in that image. So we have something which is relatively similar. So that was the black and white work. So now I'm going to take this image here, and I'm going to try different things with it. I'm going to try to create a black and white image matching the two sort of contrast that I had before. So first, I'm going to have to desaturate this image, right? Now, if I go back here, if I remember what I've said, very high, very a lot of blacks, a lot of, and not a lot of mid-range. So if I put a level here, I'm like, okay, so I don't have any blacks, so I need to create some blacks. And I'm going to be quite in it to make sure that all of these are going to become black. So I have a lot of things here. And here, I have a lot of mid-range, but not the real white. So I'm going to have to go there, probably just a bit here, just to create more of the white into the top. And now if I look at here, I've created these high blacks, whites, and a very contrasty image, where obviously I'm losing some information in the white, but that is the purpose of it. I can potentially do that if I want to densify a bit more, or if I want this character to be even more backlit, but I don't want to lose too much of the sky either. So something like this would probably be what I'm after, to have the sort of feel that I have in this image here. See? So in reverse, if I wanted to have something which was really low, remember I would have to go to 32 and 195 roughly. So 32 and 195. There you go. 195. And I have a very, very different type of image now. If I compare here, now I'm way closer to what I have here. So that here they have a lot of high values because of the sky that I don't have, even if I have the snow here. But I can try to do something with that by just clamping a bit here, which is going to bring a bit more of the high values here, because I've got more from the snow now, pointing to that 32 things that I had there. So you see now these two images feel that they belong to the same sort of universe by just respecting the blacks level and the high values. So that is a very interesting exercise for you to practice grading wise, and with the levels it's really easy. You just literally have to understand the values and to copy them. So that's it. Now I'm going to push it a bit further and take this Blade Runner thing as a ref. So we're going to do it in two steps. The first is going to be to match the black and white, the values. So if I go for my level, okay, so I see that I'm cutting at, let's say, 20 roughly. So first of all, I don't have anything under 20. So I'm going to go back to my level here. So it's not 32, it's going to be 20. Here I'm quite have everything. So I'm going to go there. Yeah, I have a bit of everything. So now my blacks are already matching. I need to remove my saturation. And now we say that everything was really orange. So if I was going back to my indexed color, yes, I'm going to merge the layer. And you remember what we said about the table? So we have like a majority of orangey, browny, a bit of yellow, a bit of blue here because of these lines here from the computers, and not so many dark values here. So we're going to try to mimic this, obviously, with some levels. We're going to try to bring the orange feel. And one of the best way to do that is probably to copy a bit of the original and place it in the middle of the image that we want to do. Something like not too big, just here, and then we're going to be able to play with that a little bit. So if I leave it on top, now I've got my level, which I graded to match the blacks of here. And obviously I really need to work a lot on the saturation to remove a lot of the different things and bring into an orange feel, and then the highlights and the shadows. So I'm going to desaturate a bit more for now, something like this. And something I quite like to do sometime, actually, I was thinking about it, is going to saturation here and colorize as a starting point by trying to find the right sort of color and saturation that I'm after. In this case here, we're talking about orange yellowish, because that is a good base. You see, something like this straight away, you've got like a good impression, and then you can fade it away. That's a way to start. Another way to start the work is to create a layer, bring the color that you are after. In that case here, that would be probably this yellow, and multiply it, because straight away the whole image is taking this. And you see now my whole image is already affected by this sort of orange. I can saturate it even more, and by working a little bit on the tone, I'm trying to get closer to this orange yellowish that we have. And you see I'm looking at these values there. So that's quite a good way to start the work. I'm not going to saturate this too much right now, because I'm going to use the level a little bit now to play. I'm actually going to create another one on top, and I'm going to start to increase a little bit my values here. So first I'm going to try to match the highlights here, which are obviously quite saturated and quite yellow. So to get to this yellow, I need to remove some of the blue, and I'm going to make sure that I've got the right amount of red as well. So I want some red in my highlights, because of it's really yellow and red in the shadows here. So there is a lot of red, but I want to cut it a bit in the dark, so I can match a bit better these sort of values that I have here on the tree. So I'm bringing back this sort of tone that I have in the jacket in the shadows, and the highlights needs to be my yellow sort of tint, which at the moment That's better. There you go. So we have now a better match between that sort of thing. Now, overall, I'm going to put a color balance, which I'm going to use for the highlights. I'm going to bring a bit more of this red, yellow just in the highlights. My mid-tone are going to be relatively orange. So I don't really have this sort of tone here because obviously I don't have that much. And my shadows are the one bringing a bit of cyan. That's the one that we have in the jacket here. Right, so now I can take this frame and just move it around and check how everything is working together. I'm going to take a saturation here and I'm gonna saturate just a bit more the yellow and the orange. So I'm gonna go and pick up the values here. See, I'm gonna just saturate the orange here. And I don't want to saturate the cyan and the blue too much. So I'm just gonna do that here. That's a bit heavy though. Right. There you go. So now my high values are matching relatively well my source image. I've got the yellow and the orange, and if you look at my trees, I'm very close to the tone of the jacket. So now these two images are living a bit better in the same sort of environment because of this sort of grading. I could maybe bring a bit more of the red in here to have something a bit more orange overall than the yellow. It's a bit tricky because I don't have that many values. Obviously, it's not a frame which is necessarily matching perfectly what we have, but and also we don't have haze, which in this film is really important. So, you know, if I was picking this color here, and if I was just adding some sort of a so you see now I've got some sort of matching type of orangey here. And now I could paint my mask to remove a bit of that. Yeah. So you see how you do that sort of tone. Now I'm focusing on the top. Obviously, I'm no longer looking at the bottom so much, but now I've got the same orange on the tree that I have them building. So these trees could be the one behind the amount of haze that you have, which when this bottom part would be more appropriate to match the ref that we have here, because you see these values are closer to what we have. So that's how we're gonna grade something to put them in the same sort of universe. Obviously here I would probably do a bit of that as well. I would probably remove a little bit of the blacks because I think they're a bit much, and I would go a bit more like that, and I would saturate a bit overall. I would probably put a bit red like this. So that's how you're going to work on grading some sources. I'm going to do another exercise now. So you see, obviously, to stay back on this one, it's tricky to grade everything at once. So you might need to do some masks depending on what you want to extract, grade through only the highlights and only the shadows. But you see now how my highlights are matching the yellow and the orange value that we have here. So that's how you need to proceed. You need to extract what you want to grade, and you need to grade it according to what you need. So let's take now this one, which is the actual cafe which has been used for Amélie, the film. And we're going to try to give it the feel of this one, which is going to be our ref for that. So obviously here there is no sky. Here we have a sky, so everything is a bit different, but it's fine. We're just going to grade this image to match what we said before, which is red, intense red, and the rest is going to be green and yellow for the highlights. So we're going to start with having a look at what we have. So here we said the highlights here. So we like the red in the highlights. So I'm not going to cut this. The highlights need to be yellow and green. So to do that, you need to cut the blue in the highlights. Automatically, you see the highlights here now already are turning green. So I probably can do even more. And naturally, it's going to bring the green. I'm not going to cut the red too much. I'm going to bring that here. Doing a bit of mid-tone here. And obviously bring a bit of green in the highlights there. So that's actually quite green that we want. So I'm going to keep it that way. Red. So you see, by doing this, I'm going to keep the red in the red, but the low values now are going to turn a bit more bluishy, blue-green. And I'm going to do the same here with the blue to bring back the green. So now you see my pavement now, it's turning into green as this one there. Again, I can take a portion of the frame here. And I'm going to pass it there. Oh, it's not the right one because I'm on the level. Sorry. There you go. So you see, and then you can move and compare and be like, okay, so my pavement is still a bit too blue. If I look at this, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to keep walking on my pavement. I'm going to bring back a bit of the red there. Probably needs a bit of green. That's better. Obviously, mine is a little bit darker, but you can tell here that we are close. Now, my red is a bit too bright here. So I'm going to have to do something with that. So first of all, I'm going to intensify a little bit the red. Now I'm going to bring my saturation. And I'm going to saturate everything a little bit. There you go. So you see now you've got a very good match here. Now I'm going to take my red. I'm just going to diminish a little bit the luminosity, lightness on my red. But I can still saturate it quite a lot. So you see now my saturation of red is matching what we have there. If I compare now, this saturation is relatively fine. I think we're good. And my high values, if I look at my hair or highlights, I think we're fine. So you see now that's an image where the grade is relatively close and similar. So you see in just the two nodes in this one, because that was probably easier than the previous example, we are matching relatively well what we have. I think we've lost a little bit of punch in the blacks here. So I'm just going to bring back a little bit of that. Now that's better. You see? But now that really feels like a grading from Amelie, where before we had that. So you see, using the levels, hue saturation, color correction through, either some hue sat or some color balance, and you can really create some nice effects and mimic what you have in another image, and that's how you're going to meet the balance into your composition. So we've done some different things in this class for talking about the colors, the lighting, the color balance in general, the color harmony, the composition, obviously, which is extremely important. And I hope that through all this exercise and talks and analyze and photographs analyze that we've done, you now have a bit more tools, to look at what you're doing and try to make it a bit more, artistic, and respecting some of the rules that made the art through the centuries. That was the last class. I think we covered a lot of different things for the theory of the artistic tools that you need to have when you do this sort of work in visual effects. That works obviously for everyone. It's not just a class for matte painters. I'm actually running training like this for lighters or compositors, because everyone needs to have this sort of understanding and see how to manipulate image and how to play with colors, lighting, how to create some lighting, how to balance a composition, how to drive the eyes where you want into the frame, and how to compose an image so it feels balanced and settled. So again, I would encourage you really to take your camera, to go out and take some photos and then bring them back and try different things, grading, composition, cropping, and see how you can use the rule of thirds or the golden ratio or the golden triangles. Try different sort of color harmony from the triadic, the monochromatic, or the complementary. And then try to play with the light, how to create some lights, how to paint the light, how to understand how that works. And then you can do way more to your work. And this final class, these final two classes on the grading are also quite important. We went through very important notions and methods, and that's what I'm trying to teach you here. It's methods that you can apply all the time, everywhere. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Again, feel free to leave me some messages on the forum if you want to talk about anything, or if you want to show me some of the images that you've done or taken, and I would be more than happy to discuss them with you guys. And I hope to see you soon for another class. Bye-bye.